picture yourself doing. Once you make the picturing process conscious and deliberate, you begin to create the self you want to be. Good morning, everyone. A warm welcome to one and all present here. I'm Hamrita Nivedni of BTech IT final year. We have gathered here for the international webinar on Data Science, the New Future. Data science is an essential part of many industries today, given the massive amounts of data that are produced and is one of the most debated topics in IT circles. Its popularity has grown over the years, and companies have started implementing data science techniques to grow their business and increase customer satisfaction. Now, I request our head of the department, Dr. N. Kanya, to give the welcome address.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to welcome you all to this webinar, international webinar on data science. All the students of the Department of IT are happily attending this seminar today's morning. I'm happy to welcome Mr. Vishnu from USA, who is going to deliver his address in data science. Welcome you, sir, to this international webinar. We know it's midnight, it's a night for you. You're joining with us from California, United States. You're sacrificing your sleep to and joining with us to deliver the sharing the knowledge of on data science. Welcome, happy to have you here, sir. Welcome to our university. Whenever you are visiting to India, kindly visit our university, sir. Once again, I welcome you. I'm happy to welcome all the participants who are joining virtually through our YouTube channel. Kindly stay online and kindly maintain the decorum and kindly maintain the digital ethics throughout the program. I'm happy to welcome all the teaching and non-teaching faculty members of Department of IT, those who are attending this webinar. I'm happy to thank our founder chancellor, Dr. A.C. Shanmugam sir, and our president engineer A.C. Sarun Kumar sir for the continuous support and encouragement for us to achieve greater levels. Thank you once again. Thank you one and all. Welcome you all once again.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to give the introduction about our guest speaker. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our chief guest for today's international webinar on data science, the new future, Mr. Vishnuram Venkatraman, Vice President of Engineering at Credit Karma, San Francisco, California, United States. Mr. Venkatraman is a distinguished leader in the field of engineering, celebrated for his visionary contributions to the intersection of technology and finance. As we delve into the transformative realm of data science during this webinar, it is only fitting that we are joined by a luminary who has not only navigated the complex landscape of financial technology, but has also been a driving force behind the technological innovations that define Credit Karma. Delving into his educational background, Mr. Venkatraman holds a master's in business administration from Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, a beacon of technological advancement and innovation. As Vice President of Engineering at Credit Karma, Mr. Venkatraman has been a key architect in steering the company towards its present heights, redefining how individuals engage with their financial information. His leadership has been characterized by a dedication to pushing the boundaries of what technology can achieve, fostering a culture of continuous learning and innovation. Today, we are privileged to have Mr. Vishnu Venkatraman share his insights and expertise in the realm of data science, a field that is undeniably shaping the new future. His presence here underscores the global significance of our discussion, and we eagerly anticipate gaining valuable perspectives from his rich experiences. Without further ado, let us extend a warm welcome to Mr. Vishnuram Venkatraman, a trailblazer in the world of engineering and a thought leader who expertise with undoubtedly enrich our exploration of data science as a new frontier in our rapidly evolving technological landscape. Hand over the session to the guest.
Thank you, Amrita, and thank you, Dean, and thanks for the invite to do this. I don't do this normally, so if I make any mistakes, please forgive me for that. And I'm trying to do my best here to see how I can help you with the knowledge that I have and the experience that I have here. Um, So let's. So I want to give a little bit of a background about me, and then get into tell you a little bit about different data career paths I see that are evolving. And while I'm giving the talk, please post your queries. I'll try my best to answer as I'm going through it. There might be some things that are easy to understand, some things that might be harder to understand, and that's okay. Don't worry about it. And if you find something confusing, please let me know so that I can answer while I'm giving the presentation. I think it's more important to make sure that you're all able to get what I'm trying to say, and so that I can help you. That's all. And then I think apart from the career paths, I also want to give like a few tips that I've learned over my career, and especially from a data perspective. Uh, and I want to spend a little bit of time going in detail about recommender systems. So recommender systems is something that I've been doing for close to 10 years here at Credit Karma. And so I have a lot of passion for recommender systems, and we are constantly trying to figure out like how to become better at recommendations. And then we can go into a little bit of Q&A after that. Just to give you a little bit of background, I know Amrita gave a very wonderful introduction, and told a lot of things which are probably true, but probably also not true. But I've tried to do a lot. And so right now I am a VP of engineering at Credit Karma. But in the past, I actually was working in India. I was in Bombay for a few years. I was a CTO at Games 24/7, and then I was also CTO at Nika. So I lived in Bangalore. I grew up in Chennai, Madras, and I worked in Bombay. And then finally, I ended up coming over here around 10 years or so back. At Credit Karma, the things that I work on and the teams that I manage are involved in recommender systems, which I'll probably go into a lot more detail throughout the presentation. Over the years, I've built out a machine learning platform here at Credit Karma. We have built out a lot of data pipelines. We have built out an experimentation system, and we have used the recommender systems to recommend financial products like credit cards, personal loans, auto loans, mortgages to our users. And we've also used recommender systems and some of the machine learning platforms to improve deal with fraud. We also use machine learning to improve our notifications. When I say notifications, this is emails or push notifications that we send out to our users. And on any given day, we send out anywhere between 25 to 30 million push notifications to our users. And over the last year, I've been really driving forward our generative AI agenda. I'm not going to go into a lot of details in terms of what we do with generative AI today, but if you have any questions at the end, I can definitely try to answer that. So just to introduce Credit Karma a little bit, Credit Karma is a business which is primarily in the US. We also have operations in UK and Canada. Um, Obviously, in India, you've probably not heard of Credit Karma. Uh, so the way to think about it is in the US, also in India right now, there is this entity called Sybil. What they do is they come up with this concept of credit score. The credit score is a number that allows you to allows banks to understand: are you a good person to give money? Are you a good person to lend money to? Will you return the money back? So credit score is more of a number which just indicates how trustworthy are you. Can I lend you money and expect to get it back in time? So that's where credit scores become really important. What Credit Karma does is it gets all these credit scores from what are these credit bureaus: TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, and provides it to users for free. We have 130 million users. Now, when these users come to Credit Karma, they want to see what is their current credit score, because they want to get loans. They want to get loans at better rates. They want to get credit cards. They want to get credit cards which gives them airport rewards or hotel rewards, or when they go to restaurants, when they pay for using their credit card, they get some points and miles which they can then encash for money or other goods. We got acquired by Intuit in December of 2020 for $8.1 billion, and we have been growing after that as well. So this is like I joined Credit Karma before the acquisition, and I'm still here at Credit Karma. Um, so it'll be good. Maybe in chat, it might be good to see if anyone has heard about the story. I mean, this I'm putting this picture up there to understand if people know about the story. If anyone knows the story about this, can you just put it in chat? Would be good to see if anyone knows about the story. Okay, so looks like there are a lot of shy people here. So let me explain what this picture is about. Um, During World War One, there were a lot of airplanes which were crashing. There were a lot of pilots who lost their lives. So in the U.S., there was this really great scientist called Abraham Wald. The Air Force department went to Abraham Wald and then asked Abraham Wald, "Hey, all these planes are crashing, and we've collected some data on the planes, and we see that based on the planes that are coming back to the airport, to the airfield, we find that there are a lot of bullet holes, and the red dots that you see in this picture are basically the bullet holes on planes that have come back from fighting." And what the Air Force agency wanted to understand, and they wanted to get help from Abraham Wald, was where should we put the armor? So they showed this picture to Abraham Wald and then asked him, should we be putting, we think we should be putting armor around the wings, the armor around the cockpit, and because that's where we see a lot of bullet holes. It's very logical, right? You're seeing a lot of these bullet holes, and you want to strengthen the aeroplane so that it doesn't, the pilot can actually do a good job and then come back alive. Now, uh, the important thing to understand is that if you put armor across the entire airplane, then it's going to become very heavy, and maybe it might not be able to fly, or it'll become really slow, or it'll use more fuel, and then it might not be able to win the battle, and it might not come back. So they have to be very strategic about where to put the armor. So they just like gave this problem to Abraham Wald because they knew that he was very smart, and they wanted to get his help in solving this problem. So Abraham Wald looked at it, and then he said, very very counterintuitively, that you should put armor on all the places where the bullet holes are not there. Can anyone guess why he said that? I'm going to keep asking you to respond. Just give 10 more seconds. Okay. Let me give you the answer. The reason is this is data collected for the planes which came back from the flight, from the fight, from the battles. What about the planes that never came back from the fight? So what the way Abraham Wald explained to the Air Force agency was, there were a lot of planes which didn't come back, and the reason they didn't come back is because the bullets hit the area where you don't see the red dots on this image. So I wanted to just like put this in front of you to help you understand that um, data is I have a slide that I have later on, but what data you have is important, but how you are using the data to solve which problem is also really really important. If you do not understand the problem that you're trying to solve well, you are going to use data badly, and you're not going to solve the problem. You're going to go solve a completely different problem, or you're going to just like make things worse. Think about it, right? If someone put armor around the wings, the there is no benefit to the planes, there is no benefit to the pilots. The planes will become slower, it's more expensive to put armor, and they will anyway, if the bullet hits the engine anyway, the planes are going to crash. So it's actually a very interesting story. I will definitely recommend you all to go take a look at it. I've tried to do my justice, do justice to the story, but you should go look at it as well. I'm going to now, just like based on that, I'm just going to use that example a little bit to explain a few different roles that are there in the industry. Um, so I'm going to go through three different roles: data engineer, data scientist, and data analyst. So the role of the data engineer is essentially to make sure that the right data is available at the right time in the right format for usage. So if you take the airplane problem, now the data engineer's job, if you really wanted to collect data, then ideally you need to be able to get a photo of every plane from multiple angles, location of the holes, what are the plane's details, what were the pilot details, where did the battle happen, and ideally you should be getting photos of all the planes, not just the planes that came back. So that would be, think of that as the role of the data engineer, to collect all the data and make sure it is available at the right time in the right format for usage. um, some of the challenges and opportunities for the role of data engineer is that uh, data is constantly growing and it's becoming cheaper and cheaper to collect data. Now, one trade-off of this is there is a lot of challenges with user privacy. So when people collect data, almost always the data is about us. So if a company is collecting data about us, then the company knows a lot about us and it could be using it for its own benefit. It's not always going to use it for our benefit. And it's our data that it is collecting. Uh, the type of data is also, a lot more types of data are being collected. So as I'm speaking on StreamYard and you're watching this on YouTube, StreamYard is collecting data, YouTube is collecting data. Like, what am I doing when I'm speaking? What am I speaking? All of that data is getting collected. So it could be, this is being captured as a video, and like when I'm doing my hand gestures, like if I'm doing hand gestures or not doing hand gestures, all of these things are being collected as we speak as I speak. Uh, the industry is also changing rapidly. There are a lot of new tools and technologies and practices that are coming up, which means that someone who's getting into the space need to be really able to understand how to use the new tools well so that they can do their job well. Just to give a little bit of a understanding of something that any data engineer would be doing, there is this concept of ETL process, which is essentially extract, trans, transform, and load. There are other ways in which you can do things with data, but this is very, very popular. And you'll see this term, if you're a data engineer, you'll see this term all over the place. So what is really happening is that a lot of applications, when they collect data and put it in RDBMS. This could be MySQL or Postgres or something like that, or Oracle. They could be putting it in some NoSQL databases like MongoDB or Cassandra and other things. The data could be in some SaaS platforms like Salesforce or other such platforms, and it could be collected in some XML files. I don't know how many companies deal with XML files in today's world, but this is a good diagram that I found, so I just started using it. So all this data is getting collected by any web application. So like I said, we are using StreamYard, and then we have the comments coming there from YouTube. So there is data that is being collected about like who posted what comment at what time they posted that comment. A lot of the data is getting stored almost always in SQL or DBMS. Now, what a data engineer does is that they take all of this data, they extract out the data, and then bring it into what is called a staging area. Then, once it comes to a staging area, they are going to do some transformations. So, the transformations are to make sure that you're, like I said, you want to have the data in the right format at the right time in the right place. So, the transformations are converting data in a more usable format. So, for example, when I see the comment that someone posted here, and like in the comments list, I see the time as 9:23 p.m. because that's the time that is here. So you are posting it in India where the time is different. It's like 10:45 or whatever, and then 10:45 a.m. So, but when it comes, the data gets transformed to my time zone, and when I see it, it's 9:23 p.m. So that is the transformation part of transform there. I'm giving you a simple example, but there is a lot more complex transformations that can happen, that do happen, and then after that, once you finish the transformation, that data gets loaded into what's called a data warehouse. Now, once the data gets loaded into data warehouse, then you have the other two next two roles that I'm going to talk about, data analyst and data scientist. Then they start using the data once data is in the data warehouse. Generally, analysts and data scientists, they deal with data at scale. What that means is that they are looking, like I said, I told you earlier that Credit Karma has 130 million users. So generally, when our analysts and our data scientists are doing their jobs, they are looking at all of these millions of users of data in one stretch and one go. So they need tools which are very, very different compared to the tools that are used by software engineers who are doing it one user by one user kind of a situation. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about the data scientist role. I have a couple of queries coming in here. They're just saying hi. So if you have a question, please ask the question, and then I can answer. And if it's good to ask these questions in the spot, or I can also come back. Um Sundara Selvan, do you crazy edits? Do you have questions? If you have questions, please put it here. I'll keep going, and then when I see your question, I can stop and answer. So, data scientists. So, what does a data scientist do? Now, data scientists are essentially the people who are building models that use the data that can make useful predictions. Now, to give you an example, let's say for the plane situation, the data engineer has collected all the data. They've collected all the photos. They've collected photos of planes that came back, planes that did not come back. They've collected all the details about which pilot was flying this plane, how long did they fly the plane, what is the type of aircraft, did the aircraft have fuel in it. All of this data is collected. Now, once all of this data is available in the warehouse, then our data scientist comes in. And then the data scientists, what they are trying to do is they build a model using the past data. Now, the idea behind the model is it is trying to predict the future using the past data. So if you have data about only certain type of aircrafts, and then suddenly there is a new aircraft that is available to the Air Force, now there is no data for the new aircraft. So the model that got built with the old aircraft might not work for the new aircraft. But in general, if there is enough variety of data, if the new plane is very similar to the old plane, then the model can work. So the model is generally trying to predict the chance of a crash. So the prediction could be something. Think about it, right? If a pilot is seeing a prediction in front of them, and they're flying the airplane, where they are told, the model is telling them as they're flying and as they're in a battle, that your chance of crashing is very high. So then they can take corrective action. So once they, and or if they see your chance of crash is low, based on the situation of the battle, based on amount of fuel that they have, then they will say, yeah, I can keep fighting because I think I'm safe. So that is what a data scientist does. They build a model that can then be deployed, say on the plane, and then the pilot can use the prediction of the model to make some decisions when they are in a battle. Uh, so some challenges for the data science industry is there is a lot of hype, and given the amount of hype, the data scientists, the models that they build create a lot of impact. But because of the hype, there is a lot of demand, and there is also a lot of competition when it comes to jobs. I see so many people, like I see Yadav asking question, how to become a data scientist in real industry. I'll try to answer that question in a little bit. But lot of people are getting in, which means there is a lot of competition. It's a very high impact job. So I think it is important. The way I see in the future is like some of these jobs are going to come together. You can't be just an engineer or just a scientist or just an analyst. You probably need to understand how each of these different jobs work. You need to understand how various tools work in each of these areas, and then see if you can build up your skill sets in a suitable way. uh, Yeah, these are great questions coming in. Thanks. Please keep bringing it in. I'm going to cover some of that at a later point in time. So one of the things I also see as an opportunity is I see a lot of data scientists operating as an individual. uh, I'm sure in college you have a lot of group projects, but you also have a lot of individual projects. When I was growing up, when I was doing my bachelor's and master's, especially in my bachelor's, a lot of my projects were individual projects. So, especially growing up in India, there are a lot of individual projects. Now, individual projects train you for certain things really well, but one of the things that they don't train you well is to how to go work in industry, in a job where you have to make sure that you're working with different people with different skill sets, and you have to work as a team to make the whole team successful. That I see as a major challenge. When I see data scientists who are coming into the industry, I see that as a major challenge. So that's something that you need to be aware of. I'm going to try to answer at least one of these questions. So Dinesh was asking, what is human bias into model predictions? Now, I just taking the pilot situation, right? So the human bias is, what data are you collecting? So we already looked at the plane with the red dots, and we looked at the data engineer doing the job of collecting photos from multiple angles. Now, if you decide to capture only three photographs for every airplane, only from three different angles, that is a human making a decision to capture only three photographs. Now, that human might have made the decision because it is costly or it takes more time to take more than three photographs. So, but by making the decision, they have already modified how the model would function. So that is bias. That, and then once they have modified how the model would function, then the predictions are changing, and that is bias coming in there. Now, you would have heard about bias in other ways. I'm trying to explain that all bias comes in because there is some amount of human judgment and decisions going into what data you collect, how you use that data to build what kind of model for the use case that you're doing. Almost always there are some human decisions that are going into building models. So you have to make sure after you build a model to check for bias. So if you're able to do that after, and then you need to understand what kind of bias you're going to check for. So if you're able to do that, you can keep reducing bias. It's almost impossible to reduce bias to zero, but you can try to capture some very, very critical aspects of bias and then capture it and then deal with it well. Why are data scientists needed in industry? Yeah, I'll actually talk about that in a little bit. So this is a little bit about the data science process. As part of the data science process, you need to, like I already mentioned earlier, you need to be able to understand the business well. You need to be able to understand the problem that you're trying to solve well. And once you're able to understand the problem well, then you can understand what kind of data that you need to acquire and bring the data to play in building out a model. And part of building out a model is where you are doing something called as feature engineering. Part of feature engineering is like, let's say you have those three photos that you've collected. Take each of those photos. One photo could be from the front, one photo could be from the side, one photo could be from the back. And you say, from the front photo, I'm going to extract certain amount of information. So that information that you extract from each data point that you collect is a feature. So you build a lot of these features, and then once you build a lot of these features, then you get into a model training process. Now, the model training process is where you are helping the model learn. The model is learning from data. So if new data comes in, if you built your model well, that model can be retrained using the new data that is coming in. So like earlier I told you about, like if there is a new airplane that gets launched, you don't have any data about the new airplane. So, which means the model will not work really well for the new airplane. But once the new airplane starts functioning over a few days or few weeks or few months, you're going to get data about the new airplane's functioning also. Then you can use the same model training process with the new data for the new airplane to retrain and improve the model. Then when you improve the model, you're going to again deploy that onto the airplane, onto the new airplanes, where it becomes starts becoming useful. So I'm going to try to answer this, why data scientists are needed in industry, because they are doing this job of understanding what is the business problem. They are coming up with a model. That model is helping predict useful things for the industry. So in industry, I talked a little bit about like the airplane prediction, right? Like crash prediction model in the airplane. Now, if you have a crash prediction model in the airplane, then you are saving pilots' lives. You are saving airplanes from crashing. So that is a big value to the Air Force. So that is why you need data scientists to do that job. So similarly, you can think about like other industries where data science is also used. And later on in the presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the other applications. Then you can get an understanding of that. So the third role is data analyst. So a data analyst, what they do is they are using data to understand what happened in the past, and they are trying to help forecast what can happen in the aggregate, where they are helping making decisions. So some decisions could be that this airplane, for example, in India, there is a lot of MiG plane crashes news that used to come all the time. So if you have enough data about a particular kind of airplane crashing, a data analyst can take all of the data about MiG airplanes, and they can help make a decision. Is the MiG safe to fly, or is it not safe to fly? So they can use data to help people make the right decisions. So like I talked about, like if there are like 100 battles in 3 months across 15 locations, and 20 crashes happened as a result of it. Now it could be because of the kind of airplane. It could also be because certain locations there might be more crashes happening. So if more crashes are happening in a certain location, then it might be important to make sure that you understand the terrain or topology of that location well. So you might have to go and map that location, and then make sure that the terrain is well understood by the pilot, or you might have to go practice in similar locations so that you are able to prepare yourself so that the crash doesn't happen. So those are all based on analysis that a data analyst does, which then can be used to make decisions, whether to give more training, whether to change the airplanes, or whether to capture more terrain information. So those are all the kind of jobs or tasks that a data analyst might be involved in. And some of the challenges are very similar to data engineering, where the amount of data keeps growing. So, because it is becoming cheaper and cheaper to collect data. So, then what is important for an analyst is to know when to use what data to analyze. So, if they are able to clearly understand what data to use to answer what question, then they are going to save a lot of time and save a lot of money, because processing all this data is actually very, very expensive. Uh, the other important part here is, as a data analyst, one really important skill you need to have is to be able to present your analysis in a suitable way. Because if you present an analysis in a way that is not easily understood, the decision makers are going to make wrong decisions, or they're going to make bad decisions. So your job as a data analyst is to present the analysis in a way which is easy to understand and easy to make the right decision. So some tips based on whatever I've seen, having hired a lot of these folks and hired a lot of people to do these jobs, and by seeing who has done a really good job and who has not done a really good job. Um, Based on that, I just have a few tips here. Then after this, I'm going to get into like more of the recommender systems piece, which is going to like more details. So the what I see is that there are a lot of the daily tasks. Like I said, I've been in this space for quite some time now. I see that what people were doing in 2014 and 2015, the things that they were doing are now being automated away, which means that their regular daily tasks are becoming easier to do, because there are better technologies, better tools that are coming out. So that is why I am one of my recommendations or tips is to not get attached to a specific title. So the title of data scientist itself has existed only for probably 10 or 12 years. Before the 10 or 12 years, there were no data scientists. They were all called analysts, or they were called some other industry specific title, which was not data scientist. Only in the last 10 or 12 years, the title of data scientist has really come up. Now, 5 years down the line, you don't know what title is going to be there. And data engineer might not be a title at all, or an analyst might not be a title at all. So don't get too attached to a specific title. Try to understand at this point of time what is the industry hiring for, what are the jobs or tasks, daily tasks that you need to do, and which of these daily tasks do you enjoy doing, and then go for that rather than like going blindly to a certain title, because there's a lot of hype out there, and it's really important to understand how to deal with that hype. And some of that is going to only come if you talk to people who are actually working in that area. uh, there are a lot of historical statistical techniques that get used at scale, and some of them just keep getting reinvented all the time, so it's important not to underestimate them. So there will be new names that will come from old techniques, but and people will say, "Hey, this is the greatest technique ever." But the idea is like there are a lot of historical techniques. A lot of people have used statistics over the years. They continue to use statistics. Statistics is very, very basic to be able to do almost all of these jobs. Uh, there was a great question about bias earlier, and we talked a little bit about bias. That bias of looking at the data that was collected, but forgetting that there is other data that we have not collected, is called survivorship bias. So survivorship bias is very, very hard to deal with. So there is also like, if you look at mutual fund industry, right? So they advertise a lot like, come and take our mutual fund, put money into our mutual fund. Our mutual fund over the last 10 years is the best mutual fund. So one of the challenges is that there are a lot of other mutual funds which were probably there and which probably lost money. So the mutual funds that lost money, they don't come and advertise because they don't have any money to advertise. So you don't understand that there are mutual funds that also lose money. You just think that all mutual funds make money. That's not true at all. So to be able to understand bias, to be able to understand survivorship bias is actually useful, very useful. And then this comment I had made earlier as well. you need to learn how to work with teams of people who do not understand data like you do. If you kind of like get into a world mindset that I know everything about data, that person doesn't know anything, so I'm going to make all the decisions, that doesn't really work well in industry. That person might be in a marketing team, or that person might be in legal team. They have their own knowledge, they have their own skills and expertise. You need to figure out how to use your skills and expertise and use their skills and expertise and come together to come up with a solution that works for that problem. Because there are some problems where you might have the most beautiful elegant solution for, but you might have to water or dilute that elegant solution a little bit to make sure that it works well for that legal person or for that marketing person. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to really succeed in this role. Okay, how do I stay updated with latest trends and advancements in data science industry? It's actually a mixture of things. So I try to attend at least one or two conferences. I can maybe put like some of these conferences here as far as data science is concerned. Some of these conferences are a little hard to understand what is going on, but as you keep attending and as you try to catch up with that, it's really valuable. There is a conference called Neurops that actually just ended a couple of weeks back. There are other conferences called KDD. There is a conference called ICML. These are all machine learning conferences, and to go there, you probably need to understand a little bit more. And when I was in India, I used to attend this. There is this conference called Fifth Elephant that I used to attend, which is also like really good. And I think the company that runs all these conferences, it's called Hacker Dojo. They are based out of Bangalore. They have other conferences like JS and JavaScript and things like that. But conferences are one part. I read a lot of books. I listen to a lot of podcasts on machine learning. One really important podcast for me, where I've learned a lot about machine learning, is called TWIML. It's basically stands for This Week in Machine Learning, where the person is interviewing people in the industry or people in research and how they use data science and machine learning to solve different problems. I do a lot more than this. I'm also like nowadays there's a lot of information that gets shared on LinkedIn and Twitter, now X. I try over the years kept I would go to these conferences, I would meet someone, I would see some talk, and then I'll start following them on LinkedIn or start following them on Twitter. And then when they post or when they retweet, then I start looking at it, and then I kept building my own base. So it's really important to be able to start with something, and then you start following them, and then you find other things to do. um, Thanks for asking that question. It's learning is something that's really important. I think as I'm doing this presentation, I feel like I'm also learning to be able to communicate to you all well, so that you can understand the things that I've learned, which also is learning for me. um, okay, so now I'm going to get into a little bit of recommender systems. Okay, I have enough time. Um, so this is actually one of my favorite diagrams, images, figures that I've used in a lot of my presentations in the past, even within the company and even outside the company at talks. So this is very popular, obviously in India, right? Like where we've known about this. At least when I was growing up, I've seen this a lot, where there are like six blind people who go and look at an elephant, either blind or they're blindfolded, and then they touch different parts of the elephant, and then someone says it's a fan, someone says it's a wall, someone says it's a rope, depending on what part of the elephant that they are touching or getting access to. So the important thing to understand here is that data is an approximation of reality. A lot of people completely forget about this. So if you just take, for example, let's say that there is someone who takes the height of everybody in the class, and then they take an average of that height, and then give that average to someone else, or they give that average to me. So, and then when I look at that average, it's an approximation of reality, because it's taken whatever 20, 30, 40, 50 people's heights, how many ever is the number, and then it's found an average, and then I just get like one number, which is the average number. Now, if I make a lot of decisions on the basis of average, it actually can be a problem. In fact, let me find this paper, and I can try to share it with you, where there was, yeah, I found this paper. So if you get a chance, please try to read this paper. This is again, I'm not, okay, for some reason it's not able to post it. I'll send it to send it to Tamil, and she can give it to you. So again, this is related to the Air Force. There was a point in time where the Air Force found that there were a lot of planes crashing, and what they determined was the seat of the where the pilot was sitting was built for an average pilot. And uh, and then what happened was, and then they found that all of the pilots, none of them were of average height, which means the seat and how they reach the controls was bad for every single person, every single pilot, because they built the seats for average pilots. So they did a very simple thing. They provided a way to adjust the seat for the pilots. Once they did it, immediately the crashes started going down. So this is called the flaw of averages. So we all look at average, 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 and we use averages a lot, but average is actually like, it's okay to take a look at it, but if you make decisions on the basis of averages, because like I said, it's an approximation of reality. So you need to be careful about what data you have. You need to understand how that data was collected, to be able to really understand whether you can use it well and what you can use it for. There is this famous saying by this person called George Box. What he said was, all models are wrong, but some are useful. So I already said that data is an approximation of reality. A model is built on the basis of the data that you have collected. So all basically all these models are wrong, but some are useful. Saying that, over the last 10 years or so, something magical has happened when it comes to like data science models. So this is about computer vision. So in computer vision, there is this very famous competition called the ImageNet competition that got created. I think they created a data set of a lot of different images. And if you see here, they conducted this competition in 2010. In 2010, when they did this competition, a lot of teams participated. The best accuracy was 71%. So 7 out of 10 times the images were identified properly. I'm simplifying that. The competition is actually much more complex. So they were able to get only 70% of, accuracy when they did this competition the first time around. And then the second year they ran it, it went down a little bit. It became 75%, 74% accuracy. The third year, things started changing. The third year is when this person, Alex Shishevsky, he used a neural network, and he used a GPU to train the neural network to be able to get the accuracy down to accuracy up to 84%. And then people kept using the same techniques. They moved it from 8-layer neural network to 19-layer neural network to 22-layer neural network, and in 2015 we reached a place where it was 96% accuracy. I think the competition nowadays is not even running, because they figured out this is a solved problem. So think about it. In 5 years, we were able to go from 70% accuracy to 96% accuracy. Now, at 70% accuracy, the models are not usable, because 3 out of 10 times they are wrong. So if something is wrong 3 out of 10 times, nobody will use it, nobody will trust it for something in real life. But once it starts getting to 96% accuracy, these models become more powerful and more useful. You can be using in a lot of different areas. So what's happening is, like, you just like go search for computer vision applications on Google, and it says these are all major applications of computer vision today. This is all because of ImageNet, and the competition that was held. And then they started using neural networks, and they started using GPUs, which allowed us to start applying neural networks and computer vision across all of these areas: crop monitoring, cancer detection, irrigation management, vehicle detection, autonomous cars, automatic weeding, animal monitoring, so computer vision in healthcare. So lot of industries that computer vision is being used today, and it's continuing to be deployed in more industries. uh, I'm going to now get into like a little bit more recommendation systems. A lot of the neural networks that became popular in computer vision started getting into other domains also, and we use a lot of neural networks within Credit Karma for our recommendation systems. So I'm going to go into more into like a little bit of basics of recommendation systems. So recommendation systems, just to give you, don't worry about what is on top right now, but it gets used in music discovery, where whether you are listening to whichever however you listen to music today. So when I was growing up, music was like once a week, where we will see Olim Olim on TV, or Super Hit Mukabla. I'm like really dating myself. This is like when only Doordarshan was around, and you can get to listen only to the 5 songs or 6 songs that got picked, and almost always these are popular songs that everybody will get to hear. Today, I and my daughters, our family, we mostly use Spotify to listen to our music. And based on whatever music I heard, it'll recommend other music to me. So last year I was listening to a lot of Ponni and Selvan. And this year I still listen to it a little bit, but there are other songs that it starts recommending to me. Whenever an Anirudh song comes, I'll just pause it and move to some other music. Or stop Spotify completely. Um, Sorry, just making a joke there. So when it comes to gets used in music recommendations. It gets used in social media, Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, where it finds new posts in your network, and who are your following, who are your friends are. It gets used in online stores. Find which items are usually purchased together, or what items are you going to purchase next. It gets used in streaming services, like whether it is Netflix or Hulu or YouTube or other such services, where it is going to take a bunch of different um, VA shows, and then they group it together and show it in one place. So when I use Netflix, when I go look at Netflix, I get to see these are drama movies, these are action movies, these are comedy movies, these are comedy series. So it's grouping everything together, and a lot of that grouping is no longer done by humans. A lot of that grouping is done by models. So the model looks at the content, and then based on the content, based on the movie, it will decide, okay, this is a comedy movie, because 30% of the time there are like a lot of jokes, there are a lot of laughs. Based on the content and based on the people who are watching this content, it's probably a comedy movie. So let me now get into a little bit more on what this retrieval, filtering, scoring, and ordering is for a recommender system. And sorry, I'm geeking out a little bit here. I'm going into like a lot more details than I was doing as far as recommender systems are concerned. My intent is not for you to remember all of this, but to understand that there is a lot of thought, there is a lot of complexity in building a system like this. And there are a lot of such similar systems in data science world. So I'm trying to give you one flavor of one very complex system which is deployed all over the place. I already talked about a bunch of different areas where it's deployed. So you can try to get a sense of what kind of opportunities or challenges are there and for something that you might want to do. So for music discovery, the first thing that a recommender system needs to do is needs to do what is called a retrieval. So what it does, it looks for at the last 20 songs that I have listened to, because it is trying to recommend a new set of songs to me. It looks at the last 20 songs that I listen to, then based on what is called as nearest neighbor search, it finds songs which are similar to the songs that I've listened to. First, it finds, like, if it takes 20 songs, it might find 2000 songs which are similar to the 20 songs that I listen to. Then what it does is it does a filtering thing. It removes that songs that I've already listened to before. Then this is where a model comes in. Actually, till now the models are very less, but once you get into scoring, that's when a model comes in. Now for each of the 2000 minus 20 songs, 1980 songs, it is going to use a model to predict whether I will like to listen to a song or not. And then after that, once it has done predictions, then it is going to order those songs based on the score, based on some other criteria. It will order the songs and then take the top 10 from that ordered list and then recommend that to me. That is what a recommendation system does. And similarly, I think you can look at other topics also here. I'm not going to go into details on each of them. Sorry, I'm just going to drink a little bit of water. So this is actually a real life recommender system architecture, not complete detail, but it is something that Alibaba uses. So I found it on an article which talks about different kinds of recommender systems. It talked about Alibaba's recommender system. It talked about DoorDash. It talked about LinkedIn. A lot of these, almost all of these sites use recommender systems. So there is a lot going on here, and I don't want you all to, again, this is more an example of like the complexity of these systems in real life in industry, how these things are being built. So each of these boxes that are here will probably be a team of 10 people or 15 people or 20 people which deal with each of these boxes. So just to give you a sense why some of these recommender systems teams could be hundreds of people working behind the scenes to be able to do a recommendation system job really well. I have a team of around 30-40 people just focused on recommender systems out here in San Francisco. Some of them are machine learning engineers, some of them are data scientists, some of them are data engineers. Uh, so what it really does is there is user profile. The user profile is essentially, it's like something about me, right? Like I live in California. I've been using Spotify for the last 5 years, and I'm a premium subscriber for the last 1 year. I've listened to like 1,000 songs in the last 6 months, whatever, right? So all of that goes into the user profile. And it could be like I've listened to like 200 songs in Western classical, 100 A.R. Rahman songs, 50 songs which came out in 1990s, whatever, right? So it's got, that is all part of the user profile. The the second thing is user behavior data. So the last 10 songs that I listened to and how long did I listen to each of those songs, a lot of that goes into the user behavior data. So as I come and use any application or any app, my behavior gets captured in a log, right? So this is the, I'm using this app, and then when I use the app, it gets captured. What, how I use the app gets captured in logs, and it goes and becomes part of user behavior. And then the system also knows about all of the songs that are available, because it needs to be able to recommend songs to me. So if it does not know whether a particular song is Western classical, who is the composer, who is the singer, whether it is came out in 1995 or whether it came out in 2005 or 2020, all of that is part of what is called as item profile. So you need to know more about the items so that you can do a good job of recommending the right songs. So there are two parts to the whole recommender system. There is an offline part and there is an online part. So the online part is where the user comes and then you're immediately having to recommend without making the user wait. Lot of these models actually take a lot of time to score, so to run. So because they take a lot of time to run, what almost always people do is they build two models. One model, they run it offline to come up, take 20,000 songs or 200,000 songs to a smaller list. And then the second model they are running, which is a smaller model which runs really fast, they will run it online to make a real time prediction, and then they will recommend that to me. And again, like I said, once the user sees the recommended results, the user can click and listen to that song, or they might not listen to the song. And then, based on the user response for that particular recommendation, it gets captured in the log. Uh, the problem that I talked about earlier, right? Like, what about data about the planes that did not come back? That problem happens here as well. If you never recommend an Anirudh song to me, you will not know, the recommender system will not know what my response would be. If it recommends that song, then I don't listen to it, or I listen to it and stop it in between. Then it knows about my preference for that genre, that composer, that kind of song, and that song. If it never recommends that to me, it does not know what I would do. It will only know what response to the songs that it's recommending to me. And there was a talk about bias earlier, and one of the things that we see a lot is, if you recommend five songs, or if you go to Google, one, two, three, four, five results, there's this concept of a power law. The top result will get almost, the top one or two or three results will get like 90% of the response. So if something comes number four or number five, it'll get very few hits and very few responses. So it's not just for things that you don't recommend to me, that you don't have information. If you put something at number three or number four, the chances you'll get a response from me also go down a lot. So the position of the recommendation also becomes really critical. Um, so I've not covered a lot of topics in this area. So the few topics that I thought I'll just like briefly mention over here is fairness. So I talked about Olimolium and Doordarshan a long time back, 30, 20, 30, 25, 30 years back, or even before that. During that time, I think there was like a lot of songs which would be popular, and only they will keep playing. You'll keep hearing Ilayaraja songs, or you'll keep Rahman songs, and you'll never hear songs of the composers or like music directors who are doing like smaller movies. So you'll never get to hear those songs. So there is a fairness component to it. Now, a lot of the new industries, like which are online, mostly online, like Spotify or Amazon. Similarly, when you go to like a shop, right? When you go to a shop, there is a challenge of, there is only physical shop. There is a challenge of how many items that they can put in front of you. As soon as you enter, what items do you see? So depending on the shop, let's say you go to like a grocery shop, if you only see rice and whatever flour or vegetables or milk, if only you see only that, then all the other items, unless if you don't know about it, you will never purchase it. So there is a fairness part here that you need to think about. So in financial technology, there is even more problems in terms of fairness. So the problems are, let's say I live in the main city versus I live in a village. So if if a particular insurance company makes more money of someone who lives in a city, then if that insurance company, based on if they see if I'm coming from a city, they show one rate. If I'm coming from a village, it shows another rate. That is a big problem as far as fairness is concerned. These are unfair practices which are illegal. So on our platform like Credit Karma, we work hard to make sure that these kind of fairness issues do not happen. Even by mistake, they do not happen. You have to be careful when you build your recommendation system that fairness is taken care of. Filter bubble is exactly, I think I've already covered it a little bit. It's basically, or maybe I've not covered it well. So if I only listen to one kind of music, then the system knows only about my preference for that kind of music. Then I am in that filter bubble. I will never get recommended music from other genres, which means that I am staying in my bubble and I am not getting out of my bubble. So, which means I'm losing out on everything that is happening outside. So, the third concept is explore versus exploit. So again, it goes back to some of the other, this is where connected to the filter bubble also, where let's say I go to, we decide to go out for lunch or dinner. So, and we are trying to pick a nice hotel or restaurant to go to for lunch or dinner. Now, if I say I only like masala dosa, sambar vada, then if I'm always going to go to like one restaurant, and then that is more what is called as exploit, because I know what I'm going to get from that restaurant. This dish is good. I'm always going and ordering that. Then I'm never exploring. If I'm never exploring, something great might be around the corner, but because I'm afraid of exploring, I don't go there. Then I won't know whether it is better than what I'm already eating. So one of the important concepts is like how can you take this like real life concept and bring it and build it into the system, where the system is constantly helping our users explore, and the system is also exploring whether Vishnu is interested in other kinds of music. The last one is a concept of cold start problem. So cold start problem is, again, I've already covered it earlier, where if a new airplane comes, if that new airplane is very, very different from all the other airplanes for which we have data, we don't know how to predict. The model will not work really well. So the model needs to see some data about the new airplane, or if you're fighting the battle in a completely new area. So let's say you always fought in plains, and then now you go into a hilly area or a mountainous area, then the models that got built with data in the plains, they will not work well when you're fighting in the mountain. So that is cold start problem about the mountainous region or about the airplane. In Spotify or in some streaming systems or on Amazon, it could be the fact that Amazon does not know about this new category of item that is now coming for sale, and it does not know who will buy it. It does not know who to recommend it to. So in that case, it needs to explore. It needs to collect data, then it can solve the cold start problem. But some of that takes time and money to do that. So some topics of recommendation systems that I wanted to introduce. Um, so just in closing, data science is really all around us. In fact, with Gen AI coming in, um, I would say all our jobs are changing. I can see my own job changing. So it's important to understand how it works. If you understand how large language models work, if you understand data science, irrespective of whether you get into this job or this kind of job or not, if you understand how that is impacting the world, you will be able to deal with it better. Either you understand and then you are able to deal with it better, or things will just happen to you and you won't know what hit you. So the so you have to really figure out like how to keep like attend these conferences, read the right books, read articles, listen to podcasts to be able to keep up with all the things that are going on around you, whether you're getting to data science or data engineering or data analyst or just other software engineering jobs. Irrespective, every single job I can see is changing over the next 3 to 5 years, and even every 6 months I think our jobs are changing. Really, really important to keep learning. There are a lot of interesting challenges, and I hope I was able to communicate some of the interesting things that I've done. And like, if not, please give me feedback, and I want to get better at doing this also. Saying that, I'm going to thank you all for listening to me and giving me the opportunity to speak. So if you have any questions, I can answer that. Amrita, I'm done.
Yeah. Now I call upon Esther Puja of final year to give the vote of thanks. Yeah. Very good morning to one and all gathered here. On behalf of all the students and faculty members, I am glad to be here to express my vote of thanks on this auspicious occasion. Let me first start with the thanking the Almighty God for making this event a resounding success. Then I sincerely thank the guest of the honor, Mr. Vishnuram Venkataraman, sir, for taking the time from his busy schedule and gracing the occasion with his warm presence. It's indeed a great honor for our department to have a welcome such prominent guests known for his great achievements in their respective fields. I want to express my profound gratitude to our founder, Challenger Thiru A.C. Shanmugam sir and President Engineer A.C.S. Arun Kumar sir for their continuous guidance and pillar of the support in organizing the such events. I also thank our Vice Chancellor Dr. S. Gita Lakshmi ma'am, Provost Dr. G. Thank you, Pooja. I thank all.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the session.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.